welcoming just to open this session because there are somebody who's supposed to welcome. Today, Honorable Speaker, we are here in the Northwest in reviewing the Women's Charter. As the member of the NCOP, we are here to take the mandate from our provinces because when we are at the NCOP, we are representing the interest of the province. So that is why each and anything that we are doing, we have to come back home to take the mandate from our community. I'm not going to waste any time. I just say the session is open. But before we can go anywhere, before we can do anything, we have to be welcome. We have to know what are we not myself, other guests. They are free, but there is Honorable Danji Susan, who's going to welcome, who's going to set us free. Member Sitana Danji, Sarala ke sa gago ka Setswana sa e tshwara re la moyeng le bewa ke mong fatshe. La moyeng le bewa ke la gae mo fatshe. Amen.
Thank you very much, Honorable Member Motlotlo Motsamaisa kopano ya letsatsi la kajeko. Ke leboge baeng botlhe fela ba tlotla balaledi ba ba botlhe. It is an honor for me to officially welcome you to the Northwest Province on this important session of Parliament, led by the Deputy Chairperson of the NCOP, May Lucas, and Deputy Speaker of the National Assembly, Honorable Tsenudi. We are truly honored as a province to host members of the NCOP in our mission to review our current legislative framework focusing on women, children, youth of our country. The struggle and resilience of women dates back to that they can challenge the status quo of the conquer through battles. The First Lady of Namibia, in one of the conversations on women empowerment, placed emphasis on greater inclusion, which means the current inclusion needs to be expanded and fast-tracked. This must be understood in the context that women inclusion must not be done as if it's a favor. We must address challenges faced by all our women throughout the country. As the Women's Charter says, I quote, "We, the women of South Africa, wives and mothers, women, working women and housewives, Africans, Indians, Europeans, and colors, must continuously strive for the removal of all laws, regulations, conventions, and customs that discriminate against us as women and that deprive us in any way of our inherent right to the advantage, responsibilities, and opportunities that society offers to any one section of the population," close quote. We are, however, gathered today, yet as a nation, we have not yet realized the objectives of the Charter. We have made great strides as a nation, however, women are still victims of discrimination at workplace, domestic violence, and even not supporting each other as women. It is therefore important that we review our journey towards realizing women's emancipation. The President, His Excellency, Honorable Ntate Matamela Ramaphosa, made a call to every member of the society to stand up against gender-based violence. Addressing Parliament, the President said, as I quote, "Violence against women has become more than a national crisis," close quote. And the Northwest, we have been a victim in a number of gender-based violence incidents. The President has further called on us as the legislative sector to accelerate the review and processing of gender-based violence legislations. It can only mean that as the legislative sector, we have a very critical role to play, and we dare fail our people, we dare fail our women, we dare fail our children. He further called on us to consider amending legislation to allow the publication of the National Register for Offenders of Gender-Based Violence. This session must reflect on how a society can respond to this call of the President and protect our vulnerable society. And in this case, I also want to take this opportunity to applaud the ANC Women's League across all provinces with other formations. They've been at the front level, making sure that they lead the struggle of women across the country, especially the gender-based violence under COVID. As the Northwest, we continue to experience triple challenges of unemployment, inequality, and poverty. We cannot underestimate the severe impact of the current COVID-19 pandemic in our society. This session comes at the right time, where our country has started to rebuild all sectors of our economy. And in rebuilding our society, we must make sure that we strive for equity and equality. We must fight and make sure that we are part of this new economy that our country is building. It is our right. We are in majority, therefore we can be by the way. It is our right. The process of legislative review should create an environment that will enable young people to get jobs and protect women. Honorable Chair of the session, Memudise, this session provides a platform for members of society to reflect on the strides and challenges on the laws that governs their daily lives. We appreciate a district-focused approach because it will provide sufficient time to reflect on issues that affect each district in our province. Indeed, it's an honor for us as a province to be participating in this program. And I'm saying this on behalf of the women of Bukoli Bupirima. We cannot breathe, honorable members. We cannot breathe the women of Northwest. We cannot breathe the women of South Africa when women and children are abused on a daily basis. The current statistics on gender-based violence, as announced by Minister of Police, sends a slow message that we need to accelerate our effort and mobilize resources aimed at fighting gender-based violence. The former president of Malawi, Joyce Banda, once said, as I quote, "My mission in life is to assist women in social and political empowerment through business and education," close quote. We cannot be left out on inclusion in the economy, on business. It is our right, I repeat. Honorable members, members of the community, women of the province, across all parties, across all structures, we are living in a country that is a highly unequal society, and we need to continuously assess and come up with radical approach to empower women, youth, and protect our children. And we can only do all these things if the APPs of the executive are inclusive, if the budgets of the executive are inclusive, the women and the youth must be at the top of the budget of the executive. Is then now we can say as a country we are serious in dealing with matters affecting women and youth. And in doing so, indeed, we'll be implementing the charter. But for as long as we are not doing that, we are far behind in terms of the implementation of the charter. Our women, our young people are still struggling down there. We need legislations that must advance our agenda for women emancipation. We must reflect on how can we realize maximum women participation in the economy. We must continue to travel this journey together with our society and ensure implementation of our legislation. In this view, in this session, we need to respond to the call by the President that as a society we must come up with extra, all we have a duty to build a united and prosperous society. And as we do that, the President is leading. We want to see all our premiers leading that program. We want to see all men in this country leading in this program. This agenda is not only our agenda because men has a critical role to play. They must be supportive even in this program, and they must lead all these programs. As I welcome you, honorable members in the Northwest Province, allow me to remind you that throughout the history of our struggle, women have been called a rock in Bokotko as the firm recognition and acceptance of their resilience in hard times. In times as tough as this, women will raise their fist and fight. Their fist will be all over the air and they'll fight as they raise their fist. They'll do something like this and they fight. And you know that that is in Bokotko. They'll shout their battle cries. Watinda abafazi, watindi umbokotko. You strike a woman, you strike a rock. This is the time that we must remember Abo Me Charlotte Maseke as we do that and conquer. That our youth trusted and used when they faced the brutality of gun-wielding trigger-happy apartheid heroes in 1976. Through the rock, we were liberated. Our country was liberated. Like the biblical David, he used a rock to kill Goliath. We are the rocks of this country. We are the rocks of the nation. We are the mothers of the world. So we are the rocks. It is Imbokodo that stood firm and fearlessly challenged the apartheid regime on the past laws and brutality meted out on our nation. And in the Northwest, we have women from Ziras that also participated. So the rich history of this province also clearly shows that we played a critical role during those era of apartheid. Now it is our time. What are we doing as the women of this country? That was then, but this is now. Our mothers did once. They stood firm and showed us what Mbokodo can do. Let us walk in the steps of Me Adelaide Tambo, Me Lilian Goyi, Mama Winnie Mandela, Me Bertha Kodwa, Mama Ruth SegomotsiMompati, Me Sophie the Brain, and many others who, like a rock, stood firm and said no to any form of abuse, violence, and all of the oppression. So tonight we must say we can't breathe when all these things are happening. We must say we can't breathe when the charter is not fully implemented. All of us have a role to implement the charter. And this session must pave the way, come with plans, implementation plans. It's high time that we stop talking, now we implement. It's high time that we stop marching, now we implement as government. It is time that we rise and stop slavering. Violence against women and children tear our hearts like a sharp knife. Let us remember that the same knife is sharpened on the rock as the Nimbokoto. Ha re tshwaraganeng bomme, re tshwareleng thipa ka fa bogaleng because
when we work
and as
together,
we work
unity
together,
is the
let's
power.
remember that under this
Sorry,
COVID,
ma'am. Sorry, ma'am. Sorry. There's someone who's disturbing you.
okay,
Colleagues, can you mute your mics so that we must not disturb each other? Please. I'm so sorry, ma'am. You can continue.
thank you, Enkosi Me Modise. I was saying, it's our role jaaka bomme a re tshwareng thipa ka fa bogaleng re lwaneng re lwantshe dintwa tseo di re lebaganeng mme re kgwetlhe le borre gore le bone e nne karolo ya dintwa tse re di lwanang. In conclusion, as the nation we have lost many
We have
lives
to
through
join hands
COVID-19
together
pandemic.
so that we can work together.
I think it's somebody interpreting.
Sorry.
As a nation, as a nation, we have, thank you. As a nation, we have lost many lives through COVID-19 pandemic. Let us continue to adhere to health protocols. Level 1 does not mean that the virus is no more with us. Wash our hands, sanitize, and wear our masks. As Professor Karim said yesterday on the news, Northern Cape and Free State have shown a slight increase on the numbers of infections, and one cannot be sure. Or is it as a result of the second wave that we have been waiting for? But all of us, we must pray that this pandemic, at the end of the day, must leave us and we must get a vaccine so that our nation can be free. stay safe, take care of yourselves and your families. With those few words, Member Modise, I want to take the opportunity to welcome all members in the session to the Bokone Bophirima province. Ha rena dintlha tse re di bofang mo Bokone Bophirima ke province ya rona ya khutso ya Khotso, re itse go amogela baeng, mme ka gore re mo visualeng re tlwaetse gore baeng kgoro ga re jeng ka lona. Yaanong ga ke itse ra ge re le mo visualeng go na le mosokonyana kana tenyana re ka e jang ka lona, mme le amogetse bagolo kgololosegang re ageng Africa, re ageng South Africa ya rona. Enkosi ndiyabulela, ke a leboga.
Thank you very much, Honorable Deputy, Honorable Speaker. Deputy, let me recognize the Deputy Speaker of National Assembly in the indeed, Honorable Danji, Speaker of the Northwest, Mama. Men are leading this program. We can see we have our Deputy Speaker, Honorable Letsisa Chetend. He's running this program. From time to time, he's with us. From time to time, he's guiding us. He's helping us. Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker of the Northwest. Now, I hope everybody is free. He can do everything. He can speak, but not speak so that he can disturb anyone. He can sit down or welcome. In the province of Bokone Bophirima, we were told it's a peaceful province. We were told Hakona Dinjamu province, Zedileng, thank you, Zedi Smile and Evato, according to Honorable Speaker. Honorable members and mayors, honorable members, in our program, we have an input by our Deputy Chairperson, Honorable Lucas. The apology for Ma'am Lucas, she's not well, but the program is continue. I will just take this to say, Honorable Speaker of the Northwest Legislature, members of the provincial legislature, members of the parliament, district and local government leadership, Commission for Gender Equality, Office of the Auditor General, representative from FFC, but by Mbarona Batoto, Mahosi Arona, Kaforemo Mahosi, if Balete Mohumpi. The Parliament constitutionally mandate require that it provides meaningful opportunity for the involvement of the public in its legislative and another process. This means that Parliament is placed at the core of public discourse through the creation of platform of engagement with the public and sectors, particularly the vulnerable and marginalized. Because when you talk about the marginalized, we are talking about women, we are talking about people living with disability, we are talking about women that are staying in the rural area that are always helping us to make sure that all the gender equality be in the form of that. Honorable Speaker of the Northwest, I would like to say gender inequality is one of the key drivers of the debate for the skewed access to health care between men and women. Furthermore, equality in another sector, as experienced by women, does not always arise naturally. It is for this reason why gender transformation intervention must be designed in a manner that brings together all the sectors of the society in order to ensure to continue the progress in the realization of women's rights. Because without the human rights, we cannot do anything. We will be sitting here, we are not talking, we are not doing anything. We must use every avenue possible to inculcate a new culture of equality and non-sexism in our communities. In 1994, women of South Africa were elected with the adoption of the 1994 Women's Charter for Effective Equality. Equally so, in 1996, gender activists that the adoption of the equality clauses in the Constitution had laid the foundation for the development of the progressive realization of human rights. Beyond the euphoria of 1994 concern have mounted the winding the gap between the country's lofty constitutional commitment and policy affirmation around gender equality. On the other hand, women continue affirming around gender equality on the struggle. When women continue to bear the brand of inequality, trapped by poverty, which is very critical for this charter to be reviewed, because hunger, economy, exclusion, violence, and femicide is so high in our country. We need to review that. We need to make sure that all women put their food have a food in the table. We need to have women have the economy in their hands. The disjunction between the public endorsement of gender equality and actually institutional practice is, however, particularly poignant in South Africa, in part because many of the indicators of policy failure are so stuck. Hence, as the people-centered parliament, we took a resolution at 2019 Women's Parliament on a 25-year review of the entire women's rights regime in order to embark to take stock on the progress made since the adoption of 1994, to see what have we done, what have we achieved, what have we are not achieving, we didn't achieve from 1994 to date. We need to check. Through the exercise, we will also access the systematical weakness that continue to impede the realization of gender equality in South Africa. We all agree that there is a lack of coherence policies, program system, planning budget, monitoring, evaluation, and auditing in South Africa. Hence, the majority of the objectives stipulated in the Women's Charter are difficult to be achieved. That is the reason. We therefore afford you an opportunity to direct, engage as your public representative, as well as government agency, in order to find lasting solution for population. Translate the charter from the theory to reality. Let us our solution be informed by your local realities and dynamics, because there is no one who can come outside to inform the solution. You are the one who's supposed to give us the solution, because those things are happening on a daily basis. Gender violence in our province, in our country. By so saying, I thank you very much, members and honorable member. Now we are going to continue with our program. The next speaker, it will be, The next speaker, it will be on a social cluster overview. It will be Menom N. Rocks from State South Africa. Social cluster overview.
Good morning, ma'am.
Oh, sorry. Sorry, I
No.
say
No, it's fine. As long as I know. Thank you very much, ma'am. I really appreciate it. Let me just try and, Kevin, will you be able to share or should I share from the
Can
side?
you say? How Shelley? How Shelley? I really don't know what is the arrangement. Ma'am?
Kevin will do it. Kevin, can you please go ahead and share the presentation?
The presentation. Kevin?
If you have the presentation, can you share, please?
I do have it, so I can share it. Let me just play it here. And all of you see the presentation? No, I think it's the wrong one. Which one must I share? It's probably. Sorry, just 1 second, please. I apologize, colleagues. It's very difficult to share this screen. Okay. Maybe I should just share.
Kevin? Why
Yes.
don't you share the presentation, Kevin?
Just give me a moment.
To assist. Can you assist us to share the presentation? Kevin, are you there?
Maybe I should
Sam,
continue.
you can continue.
Maybe I should continue
You can
along while
continue.
Kevin's doing it. Thank you, ma'am.
Yes. You're welcome.
Good morning, colleagues. We're just waiting for Kevin to share the presentation. But in the meanwhile, I can go on. I think the important, if you don't know it yet, South Africa's total population is in, approximately estimated the population to be 59.62 million people. Now, I think that is important, but what is even more important is how this is distributed across the population, across South Africa. And as you can, well, as you will see in the slides that will circulate and that Kevin will share shortly, hopefully, about 4.1 million, that's about 7% of that population is in Northwest Province. Kenneth, Kaunda, the 4 million people that we're talking about, and Dr. Ruth SegomotsiMompati has got about 12%. So those two are actually the smaller districts in the Northwest Province. This afternoon, we'll be talking about a larger one, which is Bojanala and Molema. I think it's important. I think that's generally made when we look at the population, of course, beyond geography, is of course by sex or by gender. And about 50.8%, that's about 51% of the total population of these provinces are male, compared to only 49.1% that are female. Now, that's actually quite peculiar, because normally if you look at the national gender distribution and you also look at the gender distribution of other provinces, you'll find that there are actually more females than males. Now, this is probably indicative of the high immigration or in-migration, particularly to the Bojanala area, the Rustenburg area, because of the mining activity and so forth. Because although male and female migration has equalized a lot over the last decades, to a large extent, it's still driven by male migration and particularly for economic reasons. So this is maybe something that's quite peculiar about Northwest and then particularly about the provinces or the districts that we'll talk about this afternoon. If you have a look at the two districts specifically that we're talking about, You can see that Bojanala, the male ratio is actually much higher. It's about 53% are male, compared to, for instance, Dr. Ruth SegomotsiMompati, which is only 47%, and Kenneth, which is only 49%. So the two districts that we are discussing today, or this morning at least, do actually take the normal, if you can call it that, gender distribution, as opposed to a distribution that's has got is male dominated. Another distribution, of course, that we need to be mindful of is that of age. And I think very importantly, we've got figures for Northwest Province, and in the Northwest Province, we found that about 59.5% or 60% of all people are youth or adults. That is, they're between the ages of 15 and about 64 years of age. Those are your economically active population. So the province itself has got a very, very high proportion of people that can work and that are in their economically active years. However, at the same time, about 9% of the population are over the age of 60 years. In other words, it's an old population. Now, that is roughly the same as what you'll find in South Africa, which is about 9.1%. I think also importantly is the number of children. About 51.5% of the Northwest Province are children below the age of 18. Very important, and I think this is a point that I always emphasize when we do this presentation, is also, and one of the things that's in Northwest is the case, is we found that about 46.7%, that's about 47% of all these children only lived with their mothers. In other words, they didn't live with a family that included a mother and a father and maybe other family members. But that's a normative structure, of course, and we don't want to be normative, but it is better, of course, for a child's development and also for the income that is available for that child's growth. Live in a family with more income earners. About 20% of children in the Northwest lived with neither parents, and often they lived with grandparents, and of course also dependent on other grants. Only about 36 or 37% lived with both parents, which is also by itself important. The reason why I hammer on this is because if you look at the next slide, you'll find that 46.2% of female-led households in Northwest did not have a single employed household member, as opposed to about 28% of female or male-headed households in the province. In other words, by being part of a female-headed household, your likelihood of living in poverty is much higher than your likelihood of living in poverty if you're part of a male-headed household. And as we've seen in the previous slide, a large percentage of individuals in the Northwest Province live with females, or perhaps even with grandparents, which, of course, from experience we know is mostly the grandmothers. Now, this leads us, of course, to poverty, because having income is one of the greatest drivers of, or not having income. From various studies, that about 47% of the Northwest population is considered poor, based on the lower bound poverty line. The lower bound poverty line, we normally use in South Africa 3 poverty lines. The lowest one is the food poverty line, which is about 585 rands per person per month. And then the upper bound poverty line is about 1,268 rands per person per month. The one we're using is the middle one, which is called the lower bound poverty line, and that is 840 rands per person per month. And that is the threshold below which one has to choose between food and important non-food items. So it's a medium line, and looking at South Africa, we have found that about 40 fell below that line, and that is actually very similar to what you find in Northwest. It's also about 47% are considered using the that particular poverty line. Again, gender is extremely important here. Whilst 44% of male-headed households are considered poor, this is true of 50%. A significantly higher percentage of female-headed households. So gender here, as you can see, makes a huge difference. Another point, of course, that explains that to some extent is education. We have found the negative correlation between education and poverty. In other words, the lower your schooling, the more likely you are to be poor, and the higher your schooling, the more likely you are to be better off. So, for instance, about 2/3 of poor and those that had higher schooling than secondary, in other words, postgraduate diplomas, matric, and so forth, only 7% were considered poor. So this is, again, showing you the importance of education. A brief point also that we need to make, which I think is extremely important, is that we are talking about money-metric education, money-metric poverty, rather. Money-metric poverty refers to poverty based on people's income and their expenses. Now, do they have money? But we all know people living in rural areas often don't necessarily only have money to survive. They also involved in agriculture and other activities. Also, of course, government has provided a lot of services since 1994 that provides people, even without them necessarily having employment, provides them with some semblance of health care. It would be free education and food feeding schemes at school. It would be access to electricity, water, lighting, regardless of how poor those services sometimes are. The point is, though, that all of these things are extremely important to determine what we call a multidimensional poverty lines. And I think the important thing to note in South Africa is that how the multiple deprivation line of poverty is slightly higher for Northwest than it is for South Africa as a whole. It's about, for South Africa, it's about 7%, and for Northwest, it's around about 9%, 8%, in fact. Again, it's in fact the highest in Dr. Ruth SegomotsiMompati at about 12.8%, and it's lowest in Kenneth Kaunda with about 4.9%. One of the reasons why this is important to look at also money metric as well as the non-money metric is where the money comes from. We have found that in Northwest Province, only about 53% of households indicated that salaries were their main source of income. Whopping 24%, almost 1/4 of households indicated that grants, any kind of social grants, be it child support grants or old age grants, their main source of income, which of course shows a huge dependency on state resources. Also, it shows inactivity to really engage in the labor market, which is of course not a great thing. Remittances made out about for 12% of households, remittances made out the major source of income. Again, these remittances probably related to the mining industry, and therefore it's very peculiar because we know that with the economic problems we currently have, this could lead to immense poverty. This money is not forthcoming on an annual basis. Last few slides, I just want to quickly have a look at service provision in the various districts. We found that in Dr. Ruth as well as in Dr. Kenneth Kaunda, about 89%, 90% in Dr. Ruth, and about 80 dwellings. These were dwellings with formal structures and formal roofs and so forth, regardless of whether they were built in town or whether they were built in rural areas. In those same areas, the informal areas or informal dwellings were about 11% and 7%, which is much lower than Bojanala, which is about 27%. So as you can see, these two districts, which I've mentioned to you, are probably much more stable districts than the ones that we'll discuss a bit later. In terms of access to improved sanitation, Northwest is lagging the average for South Africa. About 70.6% of households had access to improved sanitation. And that will be any kind of flush toilet or even a pit toilet with a ventilation pipe. As defined by the Department of Water and Sanitation. Access to electricity. We find that Northwest Province it's kind of straddling. It's roughly the same as the national line. In fact, it was about 83.7% access to mainstream electricity in 2018. That is, it's declined over time, really, from about from 2002. It's really stayed similar, increased a bit, and declined a bit. So there's a lot to be done in Northwest, and a lot of it has to do with the huge influx of people, particularly through the Bojanala area in the last decade or so. I think water, of course, is also extremely important. And we find that with Kenneth Kaunda, as well as Dr. Ruth SegomotsiMompati, has got the highest access to water. 96% in Dr. Dr. Kaunda, and about 87% in Dr. Ruth. Electricity, similar, sanitation, equally high. Ma'am, I'm almost in the last few slides. I think very, very importantly, and this is something that I've mentioned, if one looks at households' involvement in agriculture, you find that Northwest Province actually has the third lowest proportion of households that are involved in any kind of agriculture. And that's after the urban provinces of Gauteng and Western Cape. Northwest, only 13.4% of households were involved in any kind of agriculture. And the definition of agriculture is extremely wide. It would include having cattle or poultry, or having small rice fields, or any, and also there's no scale definition here. So this is something that's extremely worrying, I think, in terms of where we would like to see people producing food and becoming involved in agriculture and land distribution and so forth. I think this is also important when you see that female-led households were much more likely to be poor, and to be poor in the sense that they won't be able to buy food than their male-headed counterparts. In Northwest as a whole, for instance, 28.5% of female-led households indicated that they didn't have money to buy food, compared to about 23% of households in Northwest. If you look at Dr. Kenneth Kaunda, that was about 32% for female-led households, compared to 27% for male-led households. It's even worse for Dr. Ruth SegomotsiMompati, which is 34, or almost 35% for female-led households. And that is a very, very large percentage. Now, there's more than 1/3 of households headed by females didn't have enough money to buy food. So as you can see, about 15.3% of female-led households reported suffering from hunger in the Northwest Province. Then the very, very last slide, ma'am, and colleagues, deals with partner violence. We find that females that ever experienced partner violence is the highest in the Eastern Cape, but in Northwest Province, we found about 29.4%. This is just slight physical violence from the partners. About 11.8% indicated they've ever experienced sexual violence from partners or from anybody else. I must warn that these figures are probably an underestimate, but it's a good indication because those are the only information we presently have. And with that, it's the last slide. I thank you, ma'am, and colleagues.
Thank you very much, Mr. Rocks. Indeed, you are talking. Indeed, the question that I can ask, who are those women? And the answer is, those women, they are defined with class by virtue where they come from. Grassroots women, they need to be empowered. What are we changing today? Give women opportunity on procurement. Put women in a business. You'll see the business will grow. Access to economy. Give women land. Give women land. Access to the economy. That's what we are asking. Now we thank you very much, Ntate Rocks from STES. Continue with our program. The next speaker, it will be, I don't want to say ma'am or miss, because I will say miss. Oh, but it's miss. Miss Nongula Madubula. Miss Nongula Madubula. correct me if I spell your surname wrong, Madula,
Yes,
on the economic cluster overview.
thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am. Morning, honorable members and colleagues.
Mudidimase ngwana yo.
Kevin,
Mudidimase
please,
ngwana yo.
can you? Here, this is the presentation outline in terms of what I'll be touching, in terms of the role of the FFC, the research that the FFC has done on gender budgeting, and the recommendation, as well as concluding remarks. Next slide, please. As we all are aware that the Financial and Fiscal Commission is established in terms of the Constitution, and mainly its role is an advisory role and make recommendations to Parliament, to provincial legislatures, as well as local government and other organs of state, among the three spheres of government as well. Next slide, Kevin. Next slide, I think I've touched on this one. Okay, then I'll just highlight on this one because my colleague Neil, I think he has also touched on this one, that despite government commitments and efforts to gender equality through various policies and legislative measures, including the anti-discrimination legislation and employment equity policies, there are still unacceptable gender inequalities in the country. Whereby Black African female-headed households are still the poorest of the poor in South Africa. In the female and the male, you find that mostly the females are the ones who bear the brunt in terms of being poor compared to the males. Next slide. I will also skip on this one because Neil has touched on it. Yes, thank you. In light of this background, as I've highlighted in the outline, the FFC has done some project on gender budgeting, as the FFC is of the view that it's one avenue that should receive greater emphasis in the intergovernmental fiscal relations system. The GFR system should be sensitive to the needs of women and contribute to moving them out of poverty. In order to be able to do that, we need to have policies that are implemented that are gender sensitive in terms of resource allocation. The FFC, when it did its study, its objective was to assess the gender responsiveness of municipal budgeting process. When this study was conducted, it used two approaches. It scanned the integrated development plans of 30 randomly selected municipalities. As we know that the IDP is a strategic planning document for the municipalities as well as the implementation thereof. Also, other than the random sampling of the municipality, case study were done in some of the provinces. The focus of those case studies, it really looked on the four sectors, which is the local economic development, water and sanitation, early childhood development, and housing structure. We know that these indicators, they really alleviate the plight of women in terms of making sure that at least gender inequality issues are addressed. Next slide. Thank you. While we're on this, I forgot to say, on the IDPs that were scanned, one of the municipalities that was part of that was the Tlokwe municipalities, which is under Dr. Kenneth, the district municipalities. Also in that municipalities, that we find that some of the gender budget programs are there, but others are not there. You'll find that, let's say, for the disaggregation of data, you'll find that it's between women and men. It's only used for profiling of the population. It's not used as a target that these are the numbers of women that we have, these are the number of men that we have on these programs that we have, what we can do. So it's not really used in terms of targeting gender budget or gender sensitive issues. So in general, the results of these IDPs that were scanned was that there is lack of gender mainstreaming and women empowerment as an approach in the municipalities. As I've mentioned, also Tloko was part of this, where there is lack of gender disaggregated data. Tloko also has, when it was asked, it did have some equity. In terms of equity, it did show that it does employ women just in terms of budget numbers. But we find out it's mostly more about gender equity. It's not balanced with gender equality issues. Also, what was found in the IDP scans was that there is weak translation of gender equality commitments into fiscal commitments. What do we mean by this? The IDPs showed little evidence of the manner in which their IDP planning processes and budget offices have budgeted for the gender mainstreaming. You find that most of the municipalities, they use this as an ad hoc request when they have to produce the documents. It's not in their APP, so it's not streamlined or institutionalized. Next slide, Kevin. In terms of the case studies, as I've indicated that also other than the random sampling, we also have case studies. What was found in the case studies was that there is poor translation of the national agenda on women empowerment and gender equality into local government programs. And then there's limited data which is disaggregated between female and males. And most of the events are discourse events. When there is a particular event like Women's Day, you will see that, okay, this is what has happened. But after that, the books are closed, nothing else takes place. There is lack of gender budget training and capacity building for decision makers. FFC is of the view that this is really lacking. While this is the case, it means political will becomes limited because there is lack of budget training and capacity building. As I've indicated earlier, also the poor institutionalization of gender responsive budget is a problem, because if it's not in the budget process from the beginning, so it is a poor in terms of that from the point of planning, it's not included. There is also absence of analysis of the gender impact of existing revenues and expenditure at those case studies that were reviewed. Next slide. Also, in continuing with this, reasons for limited gender were indicated as absence of an approved gender policy across municipalities. There's absence of a municipal gender mainstreaming strategy, as I've indicated that if there's no strategy, there's no APP, then implementation becomes lacking or it's limited. Also, what was found was that to make decisions, including the budget officers who have to track expenditure in terms of this program, have limited knowledge of gender mainstreaming, so they really don't have exposure to this. The training is limited, so it's one of the reasons that makes them lack in making sure that this is streamlined. Gender equality indicators and the collection of gender disaggregated information is also limited. Mostly it's used for profiling purpose, not for targeting on the programs of women empowerment and also addressing gender inequality issues. Next slide. In terms of the comments, we recommended that the national and provincial governments should run gender budgeting pilots in a few municipalities as a first step. so as to evaluate results before a wider application can be done. These pilots could be linked to ensuring that gender disaggregated data for key conditional grants as part of the grant framework in the Division of Revenue Act is used. As we all are aware that there are grants that are in the framework, like the ECD grants, the infrastructure grants, which we are of the view that if this can be piloted, then we'll be able to see exactly what is happening. Also, the national and provincial. No, Kevin, don't move. Thank you. Also, at the national and provincial governments, they should ensure municipal integrated development plans are able to institutionalize gender planning by sector. As I've made earlier, that water and sanitation LED are one of the quality indicators that can be used. And this also need to include gender, which should be disaggregated between female and male so that targets can be done properly. Also, the national and provincial government should provide guidelines as well for collecting this data for budgeting processes and ensure that municipalities have the capacity to analyze this budget for a gender perspective. Government response to the recommendation was that government support the proposal, which will ensure that the collection and allocation of public resources is effectively carried out and contribute to advancing equality and women's empowerment. It will provide tools to assess the different needs and contribution of men, women, boys, and girls within the existing revenues, allocations, and will call for, at the time that this recommendation was tabled, the status was that the Department of Women, Youth, and Disability is engaging with National Treasury on budget and has indicators on gender responsive budget in its strategic plan. The next slide. At the local government level, the FFC recommended that local government should institutionalize gender responsive budgeted process linked to their IDPs, as I've indicated earlier. There should be the local government should build capacity for gender mainstreaming and gender responsive budgeting at local level, and also ensure gender responsive appropriation and budget allocation, as well as public participation and consultation. Also, with this recommendation, government response was that gender responsive budget analysis, along with legislation and other policy measures, can indeed address gender bias and discrimination. Government response was that it is a step towards increased accountability and public transparency, and it can shift economic policies leading to gains across the society for all. However, the proposal's implementation may be hindered by capacity constraints in municipalities, which is one of the things that should be looked at. At the time when this recommendation was tendered, there was no record of the progress that has been made with regards to this recommendation. Next slide. The next one is Kevin. Thank you. The concluding remarks for the Commission is that the municipal fiscal powers and functions. Can you also go on to the next slide, Kevin? I will summarize both of them. As well as the Municipal Finance Management Act. What FFC found was that this act, actually both of them, they don't have any issues mentioned in terms of addressing gender inequality or gender responsive budget. So FFC is of the view that these two acts need to be reviewed so that from the legislation point of view, gender inequality issues are addressed and are in these acts so that they can pave the way for implementation. There's no doubt, the FFC is of the view that there's no doubt if these measures can be in place, it will also try to fire the lead that was set from the beginning when the first women's chapter came into effect in 1954. The next slide. Oh, thank you. Just one thing, Chair. FFC also this year have decided as well to take a gender responsive budget more, where it will be looking at the budgets of the national, the provincial and local government to see that are they really starting from the budget process, when the budget process starts, are these issues by the departments included in their APPs so that they can be able to implement. We are hoping that this study will be tabled next year so that it can also filter through and add to the debate and conversations that are currently taking place on this matter. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Osnomonde. Thank you very much. I'm not going to waste any time now. I hope Councillor Mahlangu is there. Councillor Mahlangu, if he is there, prepare yourself to speak.
Yes, Chair.
Ladies and gentlemen, I can say give women access to water, give women access to healthcare center, give women good houses, and give them access to make food for themselves because they have an ability to do that. Councillor Mahlangu, the platform is yours.
Thank you very much, and good morning, Chair. Good morning to everybody. I hope my presentation will be flagged soon. Can I just get that confirmation? Thank you very much. Madam Chair and everybody in the House, the presentation in relation to Dr. Ruth SegomotsiMompati this morning is to indicate the composition of the district with local municipalities, namely Kagiso Nomolopo, Greater Taung, Lekwatemane, Mamusa, and Naledi. And we are here based as, now what's happening? Can we go to the next slide? Yes. The special profile for Dr. Ruth SegomotsiMompati is that, please, what's happening? That Dr. Ruth SegomotsiMompati is one of the 4 district municipalities in the Northwest Province. And the district is bordered by Mulema and Dr. Kenneth Kaunda in the north and John Hautsewe in the south, which is the Northern Cape. The district is situated along the western frontier of the Northwest Province. And the district is largely arid and is characterized by scattered low-density rural settlement and a few semi-urban areas. In fact, we can be saying we are very much rural. District is viewed as South Africa's largest food-producing district with the health of South Africa, where we produce maize, peanuts, sunflower seeds, and sorghum are also important crops produced in the district. Largest district in the province by land mass, making up approximately 40% of the provincial land mass. Next slide, please. Next slide. Why do you have only 2 slides? Okay. The nodes in the district are as follows: Vryburg, primary node; Schweizer-Reneke, Christina Bloemhof Town, secondary nodes; Khanyisa Stella, tertiary nodes; Morokwen, Tosca, Bray, Mirdol, Taquane, Devondale, local service centers, which are also rural nodes. The following major improvement corridors are contained within the district. That's N18, N12, and N14, which are primary corridors. Bloemhof to Schweizer-Reneke, Vryburg to Khanyisa, and which are R34 and R378 secondary corridors. Schweizer-Reneke, Pudumont, Taung, R50, those are secondary corridors. Next slide, please. Next slide. Now, the demographics are as follows in the district. The population in district as we had our census 2018, it's at 514,859,000. And the population is 9.9% of the South Africa and 12.6% in the Northwest Province. And the table below indicates per municipality to say from 2008, 2013, 2018, at the average or total of Dr. Ruth SegomotsiMompati as 1.27%. Next slide, please. Now, the economic profile of the district is that the GDP of the district was 22.9 billion in 2018, up to 10.4 billion from 2018. It means it increased from that in 2008 to 2018. The district contributed 7.84% of the GDP of the Northwest Province, which was 291 billion in 2018. The district contributed 0.47% of the GDP of South Africa. The district achieved an annual growth rate of minus 11%, which is a slightly lower GDP growth of the Northwest Province at 0.23%. It's lower than that of South Africa, where the 2018 GDP growth raised to 0.79%. Next slide, please. Now, talking to the district gender machinery, structures are in place within the district to advance the gender equality agenda, including women caucuses. And the following, we have a women's forum. The district forum, women's forum, has been established together with Kagisano Molopo, Naledi, Richard Taung, and Mamusa. We are only having an outstanding establishment at Legwa Temani local municipality, which will be carried on in a few days to come. Next slide, please. Next slide. Does the municipality have gender policies in place? Yes, we have the following policies in place. Sexual harassment policy, leave policy, HIV and AIDS policy, employment equity policy, which is very important, supply chain management policy, local economic development strategy. Next slide, please. And the municipality allocated the budget for special programs every financial year. And that budget also includes women and gender issues, which there is a particular percentage to that. So we can say we are moving a little bit forward with indicating what we are to do for women and gender. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Next slide, speak, because we are told not to speak to this one. Yes, in terms of economy, local economic development tourism sector, the capacity is that informal sector, capacity building on production and input and machinery, business training, which includes business and marketing skills, construction training for SMMEs, artisanry, which includes plumbing and electric work. And the support that we are giving is access to market opportunities through expos and exhibitions, production over equipment to SMMEs like catering, food outlets, laundry, electric equipments, etc. Next slide, please. Next slide. Now in agriculture, the capacity building is that training on field management and animal science management, and the support on crop production, which we're giving out seedlings for food security and for selling purpose. In tourism, improvement of tourism sites, guest house improvements, training young women, youth in tourism, and exposure to network sessions, exposure of their businesses, particularly in arts and craft and hospitality, opportunities given to cultural groups, including youth with disabilities. Next slide, please. Now, there are challenges that we need to indicate that IT access to the youth is a challenge. Exposure to male-dominated sector like construction, limited representation in mining, tourism, farming. We have also commercial farmers who are successful, developing small-scale farmer into commercial, appropriate or relevant skills for businesses, which is moving in a very slow rate. High mortality rate of business because of COVID-19. Funding support for women businesses generally in Dr. SegomotsiMompati. Next slide, please. And then challenges to women traders, where you find that fourth industrial revolution is also affecting us. So we need to work hard on the access to Wi-Fi so that at least the businesses are easily reached. Limited access to supplier resources due to remote locations, Access to online network and Wi-Fi, I think I spoke to that. Due to lack of Wi-Fi late, or else not at all information getting to them. Next slide, please. In terms of COVID-19, maybe we must indicate what is it that we have planned and what we have done also. 4 million rand in supporting informal traders and women emerging farmers. Production inputs, that's what we gave. Agricultural inputs such as medication and salts. Operating stock for small traders. District in partnership with province in developing a traders market in Swaziland, which will provide decent storage and trading stores. And women will be given first priority to this effect. Next slide, please. Our recommendations are as follows: looking at partnership with regard to Wi-Fi access to bring Wi-Fi businesses. Although district has financed district radio stations, it has to look to be licensed. Support community local media access. Looking at development of bulk buying center. Needs for increased resource injection. Realize our objective. Next slide. I think we have dealt with the gender-based violence. Programs of municipalities using that to address that. And then in conclusion, commitments and recommendations must be time-framed and be tangible. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Councillor Matlangu, without wasting any time, I'm going to call upon Councillor Barrey Sokoto Musiani, District Mayor of Kenneth, Kaunda. African women, they are staying far from the city, no electricity. There's women in rural area sitting in the smoking for the rest of their life. She smoked, that smoke impact on her life. When she go to the hospital, she travel long distance to access the hospital. She travel long distance to access everything in the city. Never raise a photo.
Thank you. The chairperson of the session, Honorable Tebogo Modise, the Speaker of Bokone Bophirima, Mebasetsana Dan, of Dr. RSM Mebuitumelo Matlangu, and all protocol observed. I've submitted my presentation. Maybe it can appear on the slide, but I will continue because I'm having a copy with me. It is no secret that at the heart of women's marginalization is the patriarchal order that confines women to the domestic arena and reserves for men the arena where political power and authority reside. For far too long, women have been marginalized, ignored, exploited, and are the poorest and most disadvantaged. Nevertheless, there is no doubt that women all over the world want recognition and respect for the work they do in their homes, workplace, and in communities they live in. Next, on introduction. Thus, women should claim full and equal participation in the creation of a non-sexist, non-racist democratic society. If indeed democracy and human rights are to be meaningful for women, they must address our historic subordination and oppression. Accordingly, women must also take control of their lives, including participating and shaping the nature and form of our democracy. However, this will
certainly come with a degree of responsibility as well as sound decision making by women in all phases for Women's Charter for effective equality. Summary of the Dr. KK District Municipality. On behalf of the people of Dr. Kenneth Kaunda District Municipality, allow me to pass our sincere gratitude to Parliament for continuing to ensure that we review the entire women's rights regime in order to take stock of since 1994 to deal with systematic weaknesses that continue to impede the advancement and realization of gender equality in South Africa. The Dr. Kenneth Kaunda District Municipality is situated at the southern part of the Northwest Province and borders of both the Gauteng and Free State provinces. It consists of 3 local municipalities, that is Matwasi Hills, Matosana, and JB Marks. Between 2006 and 2009, the district municipality comprised of 5 local municipalities has been redemarcated to the Gauteng province. After the 2016 local government elections, Tlokwe City Council and Ventersdorp local municipalities were combined and demarcated as JB Marks local municipality. Summary of the Dr. Kenneth Kaunda District Municipality. According to Statistics South Africa, Community Survey of 2016, the population of the entire district municipality was 742,822. When considering the boundaries of 2016, an increase from 695,934 in 2011. The population is unevenly distributed among the 3 local municipalities, and the average annual growth rate of the district is 1.07% between 2011 and 2016. The majority of households in the Dr. Kenneth Kaunda, 87% have access to safe drinking water either inside or outside the dwelling, and about 95% access to electricity in general. Significant improvements have been made in the area of service delivery in general. Policies and district gender machinery. Consequently, I will try to deal with the work that has been done within the Dr. Kenneth Kaunda insofar as district response plan to improve socio-economic status of women in the district. The Dr. Kenneth Kaunda District Municipality does not have gendered policies in place as yet, but we are in a process of developing those policies. However, the municipality does adhere to gender-responsive budgeting processes. I'm pleased to report that the municipality has a district gender machinery, and this comprises of a gender desk within the office of the executive mayor and the women caucus, which is located within the office of the council speaker to advance the gender equality agenda. District gender machinery. The Women Caucus has embarked on several programs and campaigns such as ex-women convicts and behavioral change community acceptance, dialogue on girl child and boy child, women counselor, capacity building dialogue program, culture, pride and heritage campaign, cancer awareness activities, 16 days of activism, and Salga Women Commission Lekota. Next slide. Women's Charter and Article 1 Equality. The municipality goes and adopted by the 1994 Women's Charter. In this regard, I'll provide an overview of systems program in place, as well as challenges and require Article 1, which is equality. The struggle for equality involves the recognition of the disadvantage that women suffer in all spheres of our lives. As a result, the principle of equality shall be embodied at all levels in legislation and government policy. The Dr. Kenneth Kaunda District Municipality has established appropriate gender machinery, both with the political and administration to ensure the effective protection and promotion of equality for women. This includes Women Caucus, Gender Desk, and Equity Committee. Article 2, can I deal with Article 2, Chairperson?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Article 2, Law and Administration of Justice. Women demand equality in the development, application, adjudication, interpretation, and enforcement of the law. This can only be achieved if the social, economic, and political position of women is taken into account in deciding policy, determining legislative priorities, and in formulating, applying, interpreting, adjudicating, and enforcing all laws. In this regard, the Dr. Kenneth Kaunda District Municipality continues to formulate policies that are geared at equality in the development, application, and interpretation. Our bursary and SMME policies are formulated to ensure that women are prioritized in respect of socio-economic beneficiation. Article 3, which is economy, the Dr. Kenneth Kaunda District Municipality is well aware that women participate in large numbers in sectors of the economy, which are characterized by low wages and poor working conditions. And as a result, many women are forced to make a living outside the formal economy. It is against this backdrop that Dr. Kenneth Kaunda District Municipality formulated an SMME and cooperative policy that is biased towards women and youth entrepreneurs. This policy continues to secure a central place for women in the economy. The municipality assists women and youth enterprises with a 30,000 conditional grant in critical economic sectors, and namely agriculture, tourism, and manufacturing. The municipality is also in the processes of reviewing this policy to include other sectors of the economy, such as ITC, as well as innovation. Article 3, economy. Furthermore, in the 2020-2021 financial year, The Dr. Kenneth Kaunda District Municipality has budgeted 3.5 million to assist women and youth within the spaza shops and general dealer support scheme. The municipality is targeting 50 spaza shops, general dealers with a maximum of 50,000 so as to create women and youth entrepreneurs to boost enterprise development in the township and informal settlements. The financial backing of the Dr. Kenneth Kaunda District Municipality model will enable local spaza shops to purchase within buying collectives and achieve economies of scale. Article 4, education and training. The Dr. Kenneth Kaunda District Municipality recognizes that education and training is a continuous, lifelong process, and thus women should have special access to funds for education and training. Accordingly, the municipality makes available 3 million annual as part of a bursary scheme to fund women and youth at various tertiary institutions, particularly the Northwest University. In the 2019-2020 financial year, the municipality funded 165 beneficiaries, and out of that number, 124 were females. The municipality also provides women with workshops and dialogues on gender issues. Article 5, development, infrastructure, and environment. There is no doubt that employment generated from development and infrastructure programs should benefit women. Consequently, the Dr. Kenneth Kaunda District Municipality continues to prioritize women and youth in all infrastructure projects, including the expanded public works program. In the 2020-2021 financial year, the municipality will be embarking on several infrastructure projects throughout the district, and over 210 work opportunities have been created, and majority of this Article 6, social services. The Dr. Kenneth Kaunda District Municipality does not provide pension, but certainly social services are provided by the Office of the Executive Mayor. These services include the following: provision of food hampers to unemployed women and child-headed household families, provision of seedlings and garden equipment to women as part of food security, provision of blankets in the winter season for the elderly, provision of wheelchairs to the needy, provision of 100% washable cotton masks to the children and elderly at the break of the COVID-19 pandemic. Article 7, political and civic life. Democracy requires that the political playing field between men and women be leveled by acknowledging women's rights to participate equally in all political activities. The Dr. Kenneth Kaunda District Municipality continues to ensure that women have equal opportunities and access to leadership
and decision-making positions at all levels, and thus the municipality is led by women, both on the political, executive mayor, and on the administration, municipal manager. On the other hand, the mayoral committee is dominated by female councillors. Furthermore, both senior and middle management has 50% representation as share of women in positions of power and decision, family and partnership. The municipality recognizes that there are many different types of families which have not enjoyed the same rights, duties, and benefits. However, the role of Dr. Kenneth Kaunda District Municipality is limited in this regard. The municipality has and shall continue to embark on awareness campaign in order to deal with gender stereotypes. The Office of the Executive Mayor runs programs within the moral regeneration movement, and family issues are part of those programs. Article 9, custom, culture, and religion. At the Dr. Kenneth Kaunda District Municipality, we acknowledge that all women need to have freedom to practice their own religion, culture, or beliefs without fear or favor. The municipality, through the Office of the Executive Mayor and its Sports, Arts and Culture Unit, continues to run programs on moral regeneration and cultural activities through the year, and these activities includes indigenous games, heritage activities, know your neighbor, and community program. Article 10, violence against women. Indeed, violence in all forms is endemic to South African society, and both sexual and domestic violence are pervasive. Consequently, the Dr. Kenneth Kaunda District Municipality has a responsibility to educate the public about the dignity and integrity of a person. The Office of the Executive Mayor runs programs on gender violence, gangsterism, as well as participate in all national programs during the 16 days of activism and beyond. Article 11 is health. The Dr. Kenneth Kaunda District Municipality provides a limited number of municipal health services. However, the municipality continues to embark on health campaigns, including providing access to information and knowledge to enable women to make informed choices about health care issues. On access to adequate nutrition, the Office of the Executive Mayor continues to provide food hampers to unemployed women and child-headed households. Article 12, which deals with media. The Dr. Kenneth Kaunda District Municipality recognizes that women must have equal access to all media and media institutions, as well as the promotion of equality, including affirmative action. Accordingly, the municipality continues to support local print and electronic media institutions such as Ahanang FM, Star FM, Lentswe, Blackstop Record, and Herald. Furthermore, the Dr. Kenneth Kaunda District Municipality also produces its own publication titled Dr. Kenneth Kaunda Chronicles in order to bridge the gaps where they exist. Conclusion. There is no doubt that when women are financially empowered, they are more likely to invest in education, food, and health for their families. Thus, the Dr. Kenneth Kaunda District Municipality will continue to budget for programs and projects that are geared towards uplift the status of women in terms of socio-economic dynamics. We commit that the principle of equality will be embodied at all levels, including in all policies formulated to ensure the practical realization of equality from henceforth. Thank you, Chairperson.
Ke lebogile motlotlegi Meyara wa sedika sa ngaka Kenneth Kaunda. Now we are going to participate, all of us, we are going to participate. We are here in the Northwest to get the information from you. Tell us, we need your input. We need to review this women's charter, but we cannot review without your voice. Now, I'm giving everybody who's in the meeting, except Untitled Chapter. I will call him on his time to speak. But everybody who is in the meeting, I'm giving you an opportunity to speak. And I want to say to you before you speak, no one can put you down without your consent. Know that in life, we have to do what we're supposed to do. Now it's an opportunity. I'm giving you an opportunity. Make an input. You can ask a question. I can check with, yeah, I've seen only one hand. But if you members or the participants, I'm going to call you by names if you are not asking, because I've seen advocate here, I'm going to call you by names if you are not participating. Honorable Williams, you are here, I'm going to call you. For now, I have one hand of
Chairperson.
memory.
Sorry, Chair. Sorry, Chair.
Yes,
to step you. You know, I'm born before technology.
I understand.
So I want to be part of the people who will say something, but the problem is this thing of raising your hand.
Okay.
But if only you can count me, you can count me among those who are.
Yeah, maybe they are going to ask a question on your presentation. We don't know. I've seen the end of, yeah, you are not yet a member. I've seen the hand of Memo Limalete. I've seen the hand of Nokia 5. I don't know the name. I'm sorry, because it's how you are registered in this. One message was saying, when you advocate, please make sure that you are speaking. But remember, you are in the meeting. For now, it's these two hands. The three hands are never ring. From there, kita be kia one by one, kiba beat. Are mbakaitsu. Memory.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor Program Director. Good day. I think it's still the morning. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, honorable members. I apologize for not being able to mention you by name and your portfolios. I would like to advise every one of us to really come to one point, to say we have the legislation, we have the guidelines and policies and strategies, you can name them, and everyone has been reading through them. But can we come and in all the things that we are seeing, are we doing enough? And I'm not going to be long, I'm just going to tabulate the most important things which are actually very, very critical with regard to implementation in South Africa, to say, for how long have we been having the Employment Equity Act? Why are we not having sufficient implementation in the different government departments with regard to quantitative and qualitative equalization of men and women in the senior, as to say, even as we review the Women's Charter, let's emphasize a lot on the implementation plan. The problem is that when we draw up legislation and policies and strategies and charters, we don't cost them. We don't cost them in the sense that we take the document as it and we put it into the table of the municipality or the provincial administrative office without having assigned it going to be able to implement it and to calculate at what level of salaries they are going to be appointed and what resources they require. We overload the people who are already in the offices with extra work that is coming up with the new policy or strategy. That is why so many of our documents and even this review are not prophesying that it could be one of them where we are saying we are throwing a baby out with a bath of water. Can then I suggest to say, we are having this, the gender machinery is there and the policies are there, but where is implementation? Just in short, let me suggest one thing. I am a facilitator for a long time. I've been a facilitator at the National School of Government. One thing that impedes implementation in all the different government departments, not only Northwest, is that when we have to mainstream gender and we train people on gender mainstreaming, you find that we are taking out a training wherein senior managers, directors, chief directors upwards have to be participants. But then when you come into the training room as a facilitator, you'll find that when you are expecting to implement or facilitate a training for directors and chief directors who are supposed to implement, then the chief director, the director has redelegated the deputy director up until you are having a full room of assistant directors and even up to security levels. And that is what is killing implementation. I have a lot of points to raise, but I don't want to be the only one that is talking. I just want us, I will come back at another point so that we understand each and every point that we are going to be highlighting. It's not me alone. We are a lot from the National School of Government who are concerned with implementation, and we would like to assist in Northwest Province. And I would like to say, we are Rebanaba Northwest, Ritzalwako Northwest. Haribereko Northwest, we may not be working in Northwest, but we have an interest in Northwest Province flourishing. And can we do the right thing? Thank you for that for now.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Yes, indeed. She came to this world with at least a gift to share to the world. That's what you want to share to us, those gifts. And we can ask you to share to the communities of the Northwest. The next hand was Mekgomotso.
Thank you, Makia Leboga. Thank you for the opportunity. I'm also a little bit concerned. I'm actually very saddened with the fact that almost every presentation was coming up shortcomings on budget, on lack of gender sensitivity when it comes to planning, when it comes to budgeting, and when it comes to everything else that has already been raised. And I just want to add on to what Ausmoli has said, that the National School of Government has got programs on gender mainstreaming, gender sensitive budgeting, gender-based violence, and also as individuals, we are able to assist departments, several departments, on how they can really ensure that their policies are gender sensitive. And I just want to say that we cannot be 25 years after democracy, we cannot be sitting here reiterating on problems that are there when we are seated with solutions in the House. And I personally would like to offer our services to any government department, to any individual who may need any type of assistance in making sure that next year, this time when we meet, we are not repeating the same problems that we have been talking about ever since. Thank you very much, ma'am.
Thank you very much. The next one is Mefaith Lusaba. Mefaith Lusaba, the platform is yours. Mefaith. You'll follow me, Faith Lusaba. Me Christiana Coman.
Thanks, Honorable Chair. Thanks, Honorable Chair, Honorable Speaker, Honorable Members, protocol observed. I don't want to reiterate on the latter speakers, but my challenge is that I suppose that Parliament is supposed to play an oversight role in government, and part of that is also to ensure that policies are implemented. I'm seated with a document that outlines percentages, statistics of composition of leadership from in local government and everywhere, and we have actually said that we're supposed to be at 50% and we are less than 50%, and we reiterate this every year. And I'm asking a question: what is the role of Parliament and different legislatures in ensuring that, in fact, even the deployees are actually ensuring that the policies of government are implemented? What is government doing? And I think part of what we need to put in within the review document is to hold people accountable, including Parliament. The second thing that I want to raise is that there's inadequate training and skills development. In fact, that was a research that was raised that there is inadequate training and skills development, and the lack of a leadership pipeline for women into positions of decision making. It continues to remain a barrier for achieving gender equality. And I can tell you, it's not the hardcore training, but the soft skills. We know that women are vulnerable by nature, by make, and it's a reality, even if we don't want to acknowledge or talk about it. But we need to get to a point, and we've raised this in the provincial government level, where we say training needs to be done with for soft skills. And I think there's people from the National School of Government. We need to focus on that. You know, emotional intelligence, things like that. They need a level of consciousness, because that is a challenge that has been picked up. The last part from my side, the issue of women in business. When you look at the CEOs and of SOEs, you find that the males make up 63% and female 36%. Board of directors the same way, males 64.3%, females 35.7%. Who appoints these people? It's the same politicians, executive members who appoints these people. So it is a challenge because we are sitting here and we're talking about how we don't advance women, but it is the same women who put men in positions of power to deploy. So I'm challenging the leadership that is on this platform. I know, you know, sometimes it's difficult to do that because you ask yourself whether I need to speak or don't speak because next time I want to be deployed. But I'm challenging the leadership of women that is on this platform to start standing up and deploy. I mean, we are more than men. So if there must be a deployment and there must be an election, we need to elect women, and the women must lead. In terms of your deployment, it must be women that are there. We are in the majority. So it starts with ourselves. We must stop being our worst enemies. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Christina. Now, Memory, do you still want to say something? Then Memory Herald and Honna Lesego, Ebena Melusaba.
Number one. Oscar.
Man, Yanu, Kohagai. Tima,
Can I come in, Miss Program Director?
Yes, ma'am. Kim
Memory.
Oh, memory.
Thank you. Thank you. All right. I actually checked through the gallery if there was any hand up, and then I realized there was no hand up. Then I raised my hand. So another person came after me. I just wanted to clarify that. Thank you.
Okay.
I would like us in the municipalities to ensure that when we draft the IDPs, we involve the gender focal points or gender focal persons in the municipalities. Every municipality must have a gender focal person who is well trained and well versed with the information on gender. So that our IDPs right from the beginning may have, oh, okay. Sorry, I didn't realize that my video was off. My apologies. So that the IDPs right from the word go are gender responsive. I would like to also request the various government departments in the province and the municipalities, when they send people for training, especially on gender mainstreaming, domestic violence, all the pieces of legislation that are pertinent to gender, we must send primarily men and not women. Because there is a misunderstanding that when people talk about gender, it is only about women. It is a serious misunderstanding. Because we need to talk to, well, I'm not trying to say men are perpetrators, but that once they appreciate that, then we will be able to really work on the problem. Number three, I would like us to advise the traditional authorities or even to initiate training for the traditional authorities, because that is the root of patriarchy. Unless we uproot it, pluck it out from the traditional in our people, I would like us to also even establish the monitoring and evaluation platforms, forums, and committees in the various municipalities to say they should be telling us, the monitoring and evaluation officers should not working. Why have we not reached equality equality between men and women, even at this stage. Why are we not having this 30%, 50% of it? Why has it taken a long time for us to meet the 2% committee? Has been able to do the SWOT analysis and be able to follow up on the gaps about what is happening, what is not happening, and what are the recommendations, and how do we our policies inspected on the basis who said we are having the gender policies. And she mentioned some of the policies like HIV policy, public service policy, sexually gender sensitive. For the fact that they are talking pertinently or primarily about women does not mean that those policies are gender sensitive. And I would like us to ask ourselves, Mayor Barrey, I'm very sorry, I may not be approaching you with the your political portfolio. I'm not sure if you are a speaker or what. Mayor Barrey, sorry for that. You asked that the municipality does not have a gender policy, but it has a gender machinery and gender desk. What comes to mind is, how does a municipality have a gender machinery and a gender desk when it is not informed by the policy? Because the policy or the strategy should be telling us, this is how the gender machinery is to be established, who makes up a gender machinery, and what are the responsibilities of the gender machinery and the gender desk. I don't understand. Let me just pause here by saying, ladies and gentlemen, I'm honoring you. We are able to write and document, but really, can we now go back to our archives and say, let us bring back all those documents and analyze them, not only the Women's Charter, analyze them and say, where have we failed? What is it that we have not done enough? And interrogate ourselves. And let's stop writing. Let's stop engaging any facilitator or consultant in writing anything. Let's engage the consultants or anybody else in
Thank you very much,
implementation.
Memory.
Thank you so much.
Councillor Irene and Melise, Councillor Irene.
Honorable Speaker, I'm also interested in speaking, but I don't have a problem to speak after the fifth person.
No,
thanks, Chair. Not now, after 5 people.
Yeah. No,
Thanks.
not after 5 people. After 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 8. 8. May Councillor Irene? Councillor Irene? Councillor Irene, in this platform, you are free to use your language. Hasore fela re bue sejatlhapi. Re bua language re na le ba batla ra rabollang gore ra reng. A re me a kitso ke mme gore ke Lesego o bolatela me bosa o bolatela me bosa le dwaba o bolatela bosa mosa sejo sengwe o bolatela honorable Barrey o bolatela honorable Priscilla Williams. Areus.
Okay, thank you, Chairperson Kalebo. And all protocol observed.
You can continue, ma. Sorry for that.
Okay,
Thank you.
With what I wanted to talk about, I think memory which is issues that the oversight roles and the monitoring and evaluation tools. To say, we are saying we want to review our Women's Charter, which I believe it has enough on its own. So what is only lacking is ensuring that there is a monitoring and evaluation, maybe whether a team that is ensuring that everything that is there in the Women's Charter is implemented in all levels. And especially also, not just talking about our government and or our other sector departments and municipalities. I think we're also forgetting the private sector, which is very crucial. I was once in the private sector and I have experienced one of the things that are happening, especially with the issue of Employment Equity Act on gender. That you find that private sectors, they still pay women differently from men. And men still get better opportunities than women. And we are saying that we are living in a world where now we are talking 50-50, which I don't also believe in, still believe in 50-50, because as women, we are the high population. So I believe that the percentage also must be changed from 50-52, the way we are. Women are more than men. So let the 50-50 be also be scrapped. That is one of the things that I want to also maybe put an input on, to say on this 50-50 concept and use the 100% divided equally as according to our ratio in the population of the country. And that, like I said, my other problem, we go to private sector, and you find that even when you have to get a higher position as a woman, sometimes you will not be given a higher position, or women will not be hired for the fact that they look at the point that a woman will take more leaves than a man. If you are going to have children, then you have to take a maternity leave, which is more than a paternity leave. So they look at those things, and you find that at some point you cannot get that, because they say we as mothers, like we've been saying, most households, according to even the stats that was read to us, is that most households are led by single women. And which means if you're a single woman, it means when there's meetings at school for children, you are the one who must go. So all these things, I remember there's been posts where you find you cannot get it, and when you go and hear it outside the corridors, you find that woman didn't get the post only because she's a woman and she has a number of kids, and they're thinking if she has this number of kids, it means then she will be asking for more lists and all those things. I believe we need to go back and say, if all these policies, our charter is being monitored, that it's really implemented, then we are able to say we are winning the battle. But until we do that, we will not be able to win this battle that we are trying to win. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you very much, Mayor Lesego. Councillor Irene, the platform is yours now.
Chairperson.
Yes, ma'am.
For date today, section, especially among Basadi body mayors in different provinces. Chairperson, Nanaki Kupela fela kilemo city of Matosan. Di buile di mayors di ntse di slate tsa bone gore ba bereka ya. Na my plea mo go wena Chairperson, my plea to you Chairperson, nane kere national, you must monitor all the dilo tse ntse di buiwa ke basadi, especially gender, disability, baruti, dingaka. Le tse dingwe tse ke di lebetseng ke kopa the national, you must make sure gore bo masepala ba ne le budget, because sometimes rona ra batla go bereka Chairperson mare ha re na budget, tsantse re dire di adjustment budget. So nna ke kopela gore di budget a etswe ko national ya dilo tsotlhe tse ntse re batla go achieve, especially a community, because sa re le mo re kgethilwe ke a community. So tshwanetse re reporte ko community. So we are failing community ya rona, because ha re batla go dira something ha gona tšhelete. I try all my best in my office ya transversal e berekang ka gender, disability, albinos, ke batla go etsa event ko community, no budget, I cannot budget. So nane ke ikopela gore a national in a budget ya bo masipala botlhe gore masipala wa Mafikeng re mo file bokana masipala, and then after go nne le monitoring wa bona le ka monitor le ko national le tle mo go rona le tlo gore sheba gore re tsamaya ka tolamo re sefa community ya rona ha e tlhoke ne ke a pause for now, Chairperson.
Ke a leboga mme mokhanselara. Ke malatelang ke mang? Ke me Bosa. Me Bosa.
Dumelang bagaetsho. Ke a leboga modulasetulo, but I was not supposed to be commenting on this, and I was not prepared to comment. But something that I want to talk about, and that I want to know as a citizen of this country and as a woman in the Northwest is, I've heard the presentation from the beginning and the district mayors who presented. What I want to know is the developmental impact. What developmental impact did all these programs produce? All we need are numbers and names and the developmental aspect of the programs that they are talking about, because all these talks have been there. We know everybody who's here knows exactly how our people can talk but don't implement. So if you can give us the statistics from different districts of the developmental impact of programs that involves women and the youth. And we need our gender budgeting should be women biased. That I'm going to say. The gender budgeting should be women biased. Because as women, we need a redress. So I don't want to talk much, Chairperson. We'll meet at 3 o'clock in Vijana,
Yes,
so that I can talk about things that I know. But generally, from all the districts, we need detailed report of how women benefited and how were they developed by the program that was given to them. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mebosa Lidwaba. Yan ke advocate Mosa Sejosengwe.
Dumelang bo mama le botlhe ba ba leng
morago ga fo go tle go latela nna ke re che
a ke simolola ka
Honorable Williams ema pele Honorable Williams o tla latela mogaetso. Yes ma'am, advocate.
A ke simolola ka go bakanya sengwe ga ke advocate ke moagi bile ke mme mo Bokone Bophirima.
Thank you, ma'am.
Dumelang bagaetso, a ke simolola ka go appreciate letsatsi la today, ke appreciate the presentations tse di dirilweng, ra leboga thata Chair. Tota hela le na I had planned gore ke tla tsena mo go tsanga ka modiri molema, mme fela ka gore ke setse ke lefa tla ke latlhele semonyana hela. Ke re we are fortunate in South Africa in that right now President wa rona ke chair wa AU. But at the same time, we appreciate gore ha ka ile chair of AU. Obviously, on almost everything, including the issues of gender, they are going to check how is South Africa dealing with gender issues. And therefore, we really need to clean our house as the country. The presentations that you and I really appreciated party meeting. But what I have noted is that the executive mayors who have made their presentations, which I appreciate a lot, there was no uniformity.
o una bua ka se o a bua ka sele, and therefore it will be difficult to say well in one district as us going forward, indicators so that we can measure them. How are we going to measure? We do not have statistics, because if you have statistics, then you can be able to say, look, we are not performing well in this area, so let us up our game. So I am pleading that let us have same what indicators so that we can be able to say we are lagging behind here, let us improve here, and let us do this here and there. And that will also help us in that there is no malicious compliance, where we would say we have women caucuses. What are they, what is their purpose? What are they doing? Are they looking at the same things? Masipala omulo omungwe, department engwe le engwe e lebella eng. Let us have uniform things so that we can measure gore ka nnete re dira dilo tsa rona sentle. We are fortunate again in that under your chapter 9 institutions, we have Lanka issues of gender, your commission on gender equality. They probably have all these things, but what we need to do is to ensure that they are now taken down to all sections, to all organs of state, to private sector, to public sector, so that at the end of the day, we are able to say, as a country, this is where we are lagging behind, this is where we are doing well. But as it is right now, we have everything. We just need to have ways, and I think most of the speakers, they have mentioned it, for us to be able to monitor whether we are doing things properly, for us to be able to say at the end of the day, when we get the reports, we can reevaluate what is it that we are reviewing, what is it that we are supposed to review, what is it that we're supposed to look at. Those are the things that we really need to look into. But we are not. Hello. Okay, we are not doing badly. We cannot say we are not doing anything. We are doing something, but let us have uniform ways of addressing, of assessing what we are doing so that we can be able to improve. Thank you so much, Chair.
No, ke a leboga mme Musa. Mme a ke tswa ke mme gore Thembe ka Zenzeli bo go tla mme Nokwe ke batho ba ke teng mabitso ba ke ba bofelo mme Nokwe Foboki go bo go latela Motlotlegi Barei Segotso go latega Motlotlegi Priscilla Williams. Colleagues, community members, since re sa tshuletse matsogo ya no ha setse nako e re potile ka bo phefong ke bona re go itsone gore ke mme go itsone a tshuleditse mare pele ga bo mme Priscilla le bo mme ba re o bo tsena ko wena wa bofelo maina ke a biditseng a kona bofelo ke mme ke Thembeka ke Nokwe ke go itsone ke mme Barei ke mme Motlotlegi Williams. A re lateleleng fela yalo Thembeka Zenzeli. Thembeka? Thembeka? Hi.
Good day. I'm here, ma'am. Sorry. Good day to everyone. My name is Thembeka Zenzile. Okay. I'm working for the Department of Health in Dr. Kenneth Kaunda district. I'm the member of the district clinical specialist team, and women's health is actually my focus. What I need to say today, I need to say that we need to start operationalizing actually everything that we have actually spoken about. It was indicated earlier on to say that, we are writing, but really we are not implementing. I think it's time now that we need to really start operationalizing. My suggestion would be the following. We need to start prioritizing gender-based violence, because according to our president, it has actually reached crisis level. The same level of importance that is given to other programs within our department or even other government departments, it has to be given to gender-based violence. This needs to start from the level of our MECs, actually. I need to say that those programs that are taken so seriously within our departments have been driven by the MECs, have been launched by the MECs, that everybody knew that we have to actually follow suit. We need to have safe houses established, and they need to be marketed so that everybody in the community is aware that there are safe houses. And these safe houses, they need to serve the purpose of which they are actually meant. They need to also be made comfortable for the women that will be housed there. They need to be made practical for the women that will be actually housed there. When I'm talking practical, I'm talking things like, you know, you need to have things like TV, you need to have like a Wi-Fi, you know, to keep them connected also to the outside world, even if they're under those circumstances. And as departments, you know, different departments, we need to be aware also of what other sister departments are actually doing around this issue so that we can come together and don't get involved in sort of like doing lateral programs. Health is doing this, education is doing that, social development is doing something else. We need to find a platform where we come together actually and say, this is the approach that we are going to follow, and this is a responsibility of health, of social development, of SAPS, you know, etc. Someone actually mentioned earlier on to say that monitoring and evaluation are very important. I agree completely, Chairperson, to say that performance indicators have to be developed if they are not actually in existence already. And they have to be monitored and evaluated as much as other programs are monitored and evaluated through performance indicators. That's all from me, Chairperson. Thank you.
Dumelang baeteledipele ba ba tlotlegileng. Ke Nokwe mo Matkwasi Hills, mo Leudronstad, mo Ward 6, mo tlasa Councillor Selebalo. Ke a leboga go kry-a sebaka. Ga ke tlo go nna motelele, ke kopa gore ke nne bokhutswanyane because dipuo ke kgale di buega. Batho ba ba itseng go kwala melao ba ikwetse, ya diragala ga e diragale. Ke Menoko. Dilo tse dintsi ga di diragale leadership. Bomme re majority ya this democracy. Fela ga re dire go lekane. Re dura re gateletse re le bomme. Fela re majority re na le bokgoni ba go pega re pagolla go ya ka number re na le yone, but dilo tse dintsi ga di diragale. Re dula rona re itsentse mo tlase ga kgatelelo, re lebala. Mme Moli o buile dilo tse dintsi ke ne ke batla go di bua. Ke nako ya ditiro. Puo ga e sa le teng. Dilo tse dintsi di a tlhagelela tse di batlang bomme ka gore bomme modimo na ba fe botlhale le maatla go dira dilo. Fela ga re diragatse dilo tse. Ke tlo go le fa example. Le nna ke o mongwe o nang le kgatelelo. Ke na le NPO e ke simolotseng ka 2016. Ha e fundiwe, ha ke kry-e gore goreng e sa fundiwe. If e fetse, ha ke kry-e tlhaloso ya gore goreng e fetse. Ke caterile ka 2012. Ga se ke kry-e madi a teng. Ke tabogile district, ke ile ka ba fela ke sa dire sepe. So bomme ba tlhoka gore ba eme ba dire tse di tshwanetseng bomme. Bana ba rona le rona bomme re a gatelelwa ga re tshegetsane. Ga mme a gateletswe a repile ngwana a repile, ke dipoleke tse di mmalwa, Durban, Joburg, tse ke tle ke bone mo ditabeng gote bomme ke ba eme ba ile go tshegetsa ngwana o tlabe a gateletswe ke rre. Ga gona sepe se re se dirang. Re kopa di-campaign on the ground. Nna ke bereka ka ground thata. Re kopa di-campaign from mokgatlho wa rona. Fela di-fund di dira di teng. Irene o bua nnete, ga gona di-fund. Nako nngwe a batla gore o tsosolotse moya le go fa batho information. Mme gore mo pandemic ya COVID-19 batho ga bana information. Ke a bona no leadership le tsone di a bua ga di a tsenye di-mask, maybe ke level 1. but number in the year ga drop ka tsela e tshwanetseng because we don't respect se se bua ke government ya rona re thuto mo baneng ba rona re ganyane mo go yone kopano mo go bomme ko di masepaleng re ka tlhola bontate a re kopane but ha re sa kopane re re lwantshana ga gona go re tlo go ya teng magong leadership it's the time to act a re tlogele go bua dikgwa tsa nyana tse di tona a re tsene mo groundong re rwaleng di-slippery re berekeng ke a leboga
ra leboga ma ke nako ya gore we must put our tongue to practice go itsone gore e re tla ka go lotlela bofelo nako e setse re jele re eme ka phefong go itsone
Program Director, Honorable Members of Protocol through the Minister Laboratory. I hope I'm audible. My thorn in the flesh still remains the Employment Equity Act.
Can you raise your voice because we cannot hear you. Amma ya no ra go mme wa utlwagala maitso
my program director, my following the flexible remains the Employment Equity Act, which was made to ensure that the discrimination and the income in the workplace are curtailed. And I can say that just now that we are not protected as Basha. As the youth, we are not protected. We go to interviews and we are being asked for sexual favors by they are heading, and especially not the graduates we are in the mining sector, we are in the male-dominated sectors. So can we be protected? Can we be protected and as Basadi and as Basha we are meant to be the future leaders.
ke leboga mme motlotleki ba re segotso motlotleki ba re segotso mosiane oui.
Thank you, Chair. I'm covered by the latest speakers. Thank you.
Priscilla Williams.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Thank you very much, Chairperson. Good morning, everyone. Modula Stilo, I'm going to apologize a little bit. Note what most of the speakers have alluded to. I got into the session when the presentation have already commenced. Actually, it's presentation. Now, it will be difficult unless in the second session for me to objectively and seriously engage on what the Charter seeks are. There's few pointers I wanted to speak to. Most of the speakers spoke to policies that we have that intend to empower gender, that needs to address all of these challenges we've got, or women challenges that we've got. The first speaker spoke about actual implementation and our understanding about the interest of women and what role women needs to play in society as family members, as head of families, as leaders of society. What role do we as women play? But also we must look at the role we take in making sure that we remain oppressed, we remain under pressure, because some of the elements we speak about imbalances are imbalances as a result of our own doing. It's imbalances as a result of me not wanting women A, Memamang, as opposed to Remamang. Largely across party lines, when there are revolutions or changes that need to occur or happen, men will go and get women to lead revolutions to fight other women so that men will emerge. Now, when we start talking, we must look at where the emancipation needs to happen, where the change needs to happen, and how as women, we need to be able to stand up and say, the change will start with me. It's funny, in the morning, one picture in one of the chat groups that I am was there, a woman was in a track race with men. In front of a woman, it's a line, it's a washing line, washing machine, stove, and an end. On the track for men, there's absolutely nothing. It means men have it easy and run easy. And my argument to that picture, and we are writing it as a struggle for women, my understanding or my view of that picture looks at the capacity that women have to overcome any obstacle, any challenge life throws at it, and still be able to compete and excel in a male-dominated environment. We don't appreciate that. We decide to look more from a victim perspective more than from somebody that says women are overcomers in their own nature. Women have got the capacity to carry these burdens. Women, if focused properly, will actually stop the abuse before it even occurs if we don't allow ourselves to be equal abusers. I'll give you a typical example, and please pardon my pettiness. In the legislature where I come from, this program is run. In the social cluster, there's 3 women that are there. There is a woman that is chairing the Commonwealth Women session, Honorable Nkopane. There is me that is in the social cluster, a woman speaker of the legislature accords this responsibility of addressing and augmenting the women's charter to Honorable Mataboge, who is a male comrade. Nothing wrong with that, because somebody spoke about issues of gender being elements that must be apportioned to males, because it's not about women. But this one is talking about women's charter. Are you saying the speaker of the legislature, who is a woman, couldn't find it in herself to go beyond the perimeters of maybe disagreement or dislikes amongst women in the legislature and give the responsibility to women for them to be able to mobilize, engage, and bring women together? It became very difficult for all of us as women to even access this charter. And we are engaging from a perspective of information that is difficult to be given. The oppression that we get or that we impose on other women as women, and we go behind the scenes and say men are oppressing women. Now, for me, Honorable Chair, I hear everything you are saying and I note everything you are saying. But I am saying until such a time that we as women stop to look at the world from the position of victims and stop using victim cards to advance for our own development, that's when we'll start taking charge. That's when we will stop seeing each other as competitors, but complementers of each other. Because then we will be understanding that when I was born with my fists closed, with talent that was relevant only for me, so that I'm able to bless the world with that. And the second woman that I meet on the road is a contributor, not a competitor to what I am here for. That's why I talk to emancipating of our own mind and stop complaining to say our situation is as a result of male domination. Of course, we come from a patriarchal society. We come from systems that were designed to empower men better than women. Of course, that is our past. What are we doing? How do we change? How do we take these policies to make sure that these policies are implemented for us to lead society? Because women in their nature, if a woman is able to overcome cooking, cleaning, raising a household, making sure that you teach the very man that is married to you how to utilize the money he makes out there, and being able to use the cent he gives you to provide for the family and the next door and the other families, and still compete with him by being a farmer, by being a job creator, by being somebody that is able to be a social worker, a counselor, a priest, a politician, and everything. That's what women are. When you look at those strengths, when you look at all of those strengths, and stop saying men are better advantaged, society is advantaging men. There are quotas, many quotas that are there, Honorable Chair, that are available for women to just tap from and start working. But it is us that oppress ourselves, and it is us that enjoy playing victims. It is us that when a woman says, I'm starting a political party, Chair, as I close, I'll give an example. When Madilil opened a party, it was us that dragged her down. When Malema started a party, it was us that pushed him ahead. Now, look at that. It's a political space. I'm saying in the institution I work in, women are the ones that are perpetrators against themselves. And then we claim men are really oppressing us. South Africa has got good policies, and we are in a position to use those policies to advance our society and make it better. I say, let's grab the bull by the horns and stop complaining and get out of the mentality that we are victimized. Thank you very much, Chair. I hope I didn't take too much of your time.
Thank you very much, Honorable Priscilla Williams. Now, but what I can say is life is 100% what happened to you, and 90% how you react to it. With this moment, I am going to call the Honorable Deputy Speaker Relechisa to come and speak to us as someone who's always at the forefront of gender emancipation.
Thank you, Ma. And thank you very much for the opportunity. It is important that I begin by acknowledging the fact that Deputy Chair of the National Council of Provinces is recovering, and this is why she is not able to be with us today here. She and myself have been working together on this review process because partly of our delegation by the leadership of Parliament. And so this is the work of Parliament to interact with other government departments, rather government, other legislatures at a provincial and national level. And that's the context in which we work together. I'm also a man. And so in the debate about the review of the Women's Charter, we reflect on issues of our progress towards what our Constitution calls non-racialism, non-sexism, and democracy. So, in a sense, the Women's Charter and its review is as a result of what we have already adopted as a guide towards the kind of society we would like to have, a non-sexist society, a non-racial society, and a democratic. That's what I wanted to say firstly. In other words, we are on to realizing the vision that we set ourselves up for. And so when we fail to meet the goals we've set for ourselves, reaching the objectives, the vision that we have set for ourselves, that should guide how we think about and reflect on what we are doing. So in the people present here today, and the people who have spoken and so on, what is the extent to which we reflect the non-racial nature of the society we would like to create, the non-sexist society that we would like to reach, and the democratic nature of the content of what we are talking about? And so I thought I should raise that to suggest that we really appreciate the inputs that we are hearing today. And so, like we have had in other districts and provinces to date, this is critical part. I also just want to appreciate the inputs by our development partners, the institutions that we have created to support democracy, the Finance and Fiscal Commission, the State South Africa, and the Commission for Gender Equality, which is usually part of our partnership as we go through these districts. I realize that maybe there was a problem, but those three have been constantly accompanying us in carrying out, so that in providing us with what they were, the responsibility they were given to support and help us assess progress and contribute toward realizing what I've just said, they become an important part and partnership of our institutions and so on. And I like the presence in our midst today of people from the School of Government, because they constitute an important and critical part of the public service. The public service has a responsibility critical to realize what I've just described earlier on. So failure or progress is our joint responsibility. So when we do not make progress, when we do not run at the pace at which we agreed we would run, we must look at each other and say, what have I contributed to this low pace of running when we could run faster? So when we do that, we increase the credibility of our own observations, of our own country, we increase the validity of our own observations, and encourage others to behave in similar manner, so that all of us are able to see our contributions. And for example, the problem or the reason behind gender equality is as a result of the observation around patriarchy. Patriarchy is not a men's issue. It's a societal issue. Both men and women are socialized to advance patriarchy. So when you educate both men and women against patriarchy, because the reason why we're still talking like this, despite the majority women in our population, is because of the stubbornness of patriarchy as taught to men and women. And so I thought I should make those points and then perhaps to suggest that we really appreciate observations that were made earlier on, that we should focus on public expenditure in addition to implementation as a key instrument for measuring what progress we are making or not. Show me your budget and I'll show you what your priorities are. Show me where you spend your money and I will show you where you have interest and have commitment, because that's where you will take your money to. And this is why this focus on public expenditure is a critical one. And I thought both the public expenditure, the public service, and public resources, the three elements are critical when included in our assessment. As the evaluation of legislation, and we appointed a high-level panel that looked at the reasons why the laws that we had created, underpinned by policies that led to those laws, have not produced what we desired, so that we draw lessons from that and look at others that we are going to be doing going forward differently. So in the Northwest, and the assessment that the legislature would have done on previous legislation, including those that you have referred to, reasons for failure must inform what we do. And we would have, we really appreciate that some of you are raising some of those elements of the reasons for failure for implementation. And it is coming across through the contributions of the mayors, but also some of the efforts that are being made and perhaps why they are not working well. So both elements of progress and difference is important. I do wish to suggest that the South African National AIDS Council has a component of a men's forum. We collaborate with the Department of Social Development to work with men's forum at a provincial, at a district level, so that we examine the reasons behind gender-based violence. It started earlier, and it is a necessary partner to the programs that we are discussing here. And I thought I should raise it so that the leadership of the municipality and of the legislature must create an opportunity for men's forum in Northwest to consider issues on their own, just as women, you are considering those issues here, that it is important that we create platform and opportunities for men to come together to do that, to examine the issues. We've met twice in Parliament as men from all provinces, and so we expect the same to happen over here, so that we appreciate, or rather, from the discussions amongst men and the discussions amongst women, emerges a synthesis that will have meaningful impact on the goals we have set for ourselves. So it's a critical exercise that I'm inviting us as we do this, as we complete this work today, that we consider it as part of work in progress, opportunities to go and do that. And both the education platforms that exist across the board, that we must be looking at both men and women in order to assure ourselves that we will make better impact. My final comment is that the lived experiences of women and men in the districts that we are going to be talking to is the principal measurement for the progress we are going to make. When people themselves say that there is progress, that's the biggest achievement we would have made. So we agree with the impatience that implementation is poor, is of weak quality, and that it can be improved. And so let's work towards doing that. But first, we must begin with our own assessment, individually and as collective teams from various institutions. What have we not done, which if we had done, would make many things easier or less difficult? Because that context, I do wish to thank as I said earlier on, the three institutions that support us in this work. And I hope the School of Government must be present in all the districts that we are going to go to. Not only because, Memoli, you come from this province, this parochial heart of yours. I must see you in the Free State, although we have gone past there. We must see you everywhere else. We are still left. It's an important part of, it's a capacity, of the state. It is available as an opportunity to build what we were trying to do and so on. But we must also hear from you what your additional problems are, but also where you have really received good responses and the impact that is good that has happened as a result of your intervention. I'm saying this not only to you, but to other stakeholders that we may not have invited and so on. So without wasting any more time, I just thought I should make this comment and then say that we have a disaster in our heads. The poverty levels, the levels of inequality and unemployment. And whatever we say in the charter, in amending it, if there's any need for us to amend it, if what we are saying does not deal with poverty and inequality, we are fiddling whilst Rome is burning. COVID-19 has deepened the crisis, and we must find ways in which we really, in our own capacities and collective capacities, we create platforms for people to bring in their creativity to the problems we are talking about without creating any unnecessary boundaries and so on. So thank you very much. I really appreciate the opportunity to have listened to you and your inputs here. We hope that we can additionally hear from you what else you think can be done differently, creatively, and in an inclusive manner. Thank you very much.
No, reale go gamotlegi motlatsa Musa Khotla ntatele tshesa tsenong. Bagaitshore ya go bokhutlong ba programa ya rona. Let me take this opportunity to thank all the participants who participated in this program. And also to go to the councillors, Matlangu, Councillor Barei Sokoto, to presenting to us the model of the district model. To thank again Mayor Madugula from the Financial Commission, Fiscal Commission. Let me thank again Ntate Red Rocks on a social cluster.
Mudula Stulo. Ke uka umitsa Northwest senemo ya gage ke room motho. Ni ru
Sitile ka sekepe re motlotlegi re le tshesa ke boe gape ke leboge botlhe ba kileng ba participate jaaka marona mme speakera mme Musa Khotla wa Bokoni Bophirima mme Basetsana Dantsi gore amogela gore bulela dikgoro gore re tsene mo lapeng la gago re ya leboga maitsho re le tshesa tsenodi tswelela pele fela ya lo re leader motlotlegi bagaetsho ke lo lebogela gore Lone Pile Chono, that opportunity for lead that program. Kyaleboga go rialo. Me Basitana Danji, when she welcomed us, she spoke about the rock. I want to say in my conclusion, a rock is not splitted by the power of the dripping of water, but by its persistence. Women of the Northwest, where is the way? There is a way. We can be a drop of water, but when we are together, we make a river. Kama fukwa magalo, sanan sentle, kyaleboga. This program is officially adjourned. Kyalebogile bagaetsho.
Re tla kopana ka 3 o'clock program direct.
Ka 3 o'clock ke me ballet. Batla.
Amen.
Ke mitsa ka Setswana ballet. Batla. Wa tlasela ntate le chief. Siame. Ke a leboga batlotlegi botlhe le batla pitšong.
Enkosi ma.
Siyabulela.
My chairperson speaking, good morning. Hello.